Hi, I'm Novel Mike, and this is my opinion. This is going to be a spoiler-free first impressions of Dragon Quest XI. I want to go into detail into a big review later on, maybe even do a spoiler discussion about certain things in the story. But for now, this is just going to be general first impressions of the game. I have not finished the game yet, so that is one reason I have not done a review. That will be coming at some point, probably next week, but we'll have to see. Anyway, with that said, the only thing I'm really going to talk about with the story itself is essentially that it is a very generic storyline. It's a chosen one plot line, chosen one to save the world from, the Shadow Lord, ultimate evil kind of thing. You're called the Luminary, and it's just your title essentially. It's the generic storyline of the hero story essentially. And if that is not what you're looking for, if you're looking for a game that has crazy plot twists and stuff like that, this game just may not be for you. I hate to say that, but Dragon Quest is not a series that really likes to compromise itself. It is very much the perfect example of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Wherein that what has worked for the series has made it insanely popular in Japan and not as popular everywhere else. And because of that, they have never felt like they need to really change up the formula much or do anything crazy. It's in many ways the antithesis, I think, of Final Fantasy, whereas Final Fantasy generally has very different games entry to entry. They change up the gameplay systems, the story, the setting, etc. Whereas Dragon Quest has always very much been a fantasy story with a fairly generic story, but just told really well. And I think even Dragon Quest XI is even better than what normal Dragon Quest games do in that aspect. The writing in this game is top notch. In certain sections of the game, I think that the story and the writing really shine, and it's impressive because going into this game, I didn't expect that. I didn't expect the story to really hit me the way it has at several parts. And it's not a constant thing, but there's been certain very memorable scenes that I think will stay with me for a long time, much like Final Fantasy VI did. I don't want to say it's like that level necessarily, but there's some very good story moments in this game that I think are told exceptionally well that will leave a lasting impact for those who experience it. And I've seen other people commenting on the same kind of things that, you think one thing and then the game really presents it in another way. And it's surprising and it's well done and I love it. And I'm a big person about story and characters. So if this is impressing me, it's pretty damn good. It's not going to be anything like there's no crazy plot twists or anything that's going to make you say, oh, I didn't see that coming. But it is well done in all of its aspects, and it circumvents your expectations because it does seem so generic at first. And a lot of it is still generic. I don't want to say like this is going to be some Revolution RPG that really changes up Dragon Quest. It is very much a Dragon Quest formula game, for better or worse. Because I know some people do not like that. Some people do want, a more crazy plot line and settings and characters and plot twists and all that. This just isn't that. This is very much a old school RPG, but with AAA budget and graphics and all that. And the graphics indeed are amazing. I think that's one thing that I think anyone looking at this game will just look like and is, wow, is that pretty. You have so many, like the character models are good, the animations are good, the landscapes are amazing, the towns, how huge they are, is just vibrant and brilliant, and it looks so unique. Every location in this game looks different and unique, and you never go really say, oh, hey, that just looks like this area I've already been to. You never have that happen. Every area looks somewhat different than the previous ones, and it reminds me of a way of somewhat like World of Warcraft in that aspect, and I think it's done exceptionally well here. Sadly, the music is not on the same level. The composer is an expletive I won't say, but essentially the orchestrated soundtrack for this game is not in the game. They sell it separately in Japan, at least, to make money because the composer is an expletive. And so instead we have a MIDI version of the soundtrack, and It's not great. Like it's not horrendous. It's not going to make you go and say, "Oh God, I can't play this game because of the music." But it's just not. It does not match the budget or the impressiveness of everything else in the game, and that's the problem. And unfortunately, at least on PC, there is no patch for it. Maybe eventually there will be. PS4 people are just stuck with the crappy music, and it's a shame because it brings down an otherwise near perfect presentation for me. I think that the game looks amazing. I think a lot of the sound effects are on point. I think the character designs are great. I think the world looks amazing. But that sound is just, it sucks that it brings the whole thing down a little bit for me. On top of that, there are things about this game I think people will have a hard time getting into. It is just a very traditional turn-based combat system. Random battles are gone, thankfully. You'll see all the enemies out in the open world. You can fight them or not. You know, sometimes you do need to fight some just to either fill out your bestiary or, you know, maybe grind a few levels before a challenging boss or something like that. But generally I found the game fairly easy on the normal setting. Speaking of which, the game does have some nice modifiers called Draconian mode or something like that, where essentially you can actually pick options to make enemies harder. You can prevent yourself from being able to equip armor, go to shops, stuff like that. It's cool because instead of it just being a hard mode where everything hits harder and you don't do as much damage or stuff like that, it actually lets you modify the difficulty in ways. The only problem I have is that essentially you can start with modifiers on and turn them off later, but you can't turn them back on. And if you start without them on, you can't turn them on mid-game. I kind of would have liked if the game had an option to do that. It may have just been a limitation of the technology because this was a feature they added just for the US version or the Western version, but I would have liked for that to have been a thing because I think that me starting out, I started out just playing it normal. I got several hours in. I didn't really want to restart on a hard difficulty, but I did feel like it was a bit easy and I wouldn't mind at least a few of those modifiers on to really see if I could enjoy a bit more of a challenge. But still, I found the whole battle system enjoyable. You know, it's not going to change anyone's minds, but they're, you know, it is a very standard Dragon Quest battle system, turn-based, four people in your party. Some nice quality of life issues, like all the reserve members of your party can be switched out at any point. You still got an auto battle feature if you want to use it, where you can basically just set your party to do specific things, like fight wisely or go all out and use your best attacks or focus on healing, that kind of thing, and just let the game play itself, essentially, and then that way you don't have to focus so much on selecting commands, and then you can just watch the attacks play out and pay attention to other things, like if you're watching TV or something like that. I think that there's a lot to like about it, but what really makes it nice is the customization for each character. You have skill trees for each character that's different per character, and essentially it focuses either on like their class abilities, like the main hero has a luminary tree that gives them different abilities and boosts his stats in certain ways, or you have weapon ones where, for example, for the hero you either can use great swords and prioritize that, or sword and shield, prioritize that, and you get different abilities and level up different stats and stuff that way. And there's some hidden abilities as well, like dual wielding and stuff like that you can get for a variety of the characters, and every character has a different tree. And it's cool because you can actually like experiment with different things and see what you like, what you don't like, but it also allows you to really enjoy messing around with different character builds. And it adds a lot of variety to the gameplay when you can essentially go down different trees and get certain things. Like one thing I did really early on was for Eric the Thief, he has a dual wield ability. Well, I did that, and then I started having him learn boomerang abilities, and then he basically can just destroy most normal enemy groups with this, I think it's called Toomerang, where he basically does like a double throw of his boomerangs, and he's already got two of them, so it does a lot of damage to all the enemies at once, and it's a great way to start off a battle, and it doesn't cost a ton of MP. And it's stuff like that that really makes the game interesting, and there's different ways to customize characters and create whatever you want, and it all feels like they're all viable in one way or another. It doesn't feel like any one ability is better than necessarily any other. It just depends on how you want them to play. Like, me doing that with Eric makes him a great for random battles, but he's not so great in boss battles, so generally I pull him out and I put somebody else in for that place, someone like Jade, who's a much stronger physical hitter, but Jeff's definitely someone who doesn't have the AoE potential that Eric does, mainly because of how I built up her skills. So, I love the game, I love the cast, I love the story. I think it's a great game. I think if you are looking for a good Japanese RPG, there is no better right now. I think it's a better game than Final Fantasy 15 and Persona 5, just in terms of its writing and its characters. And while I haven't finished it yet, I don't expect that to change with how impressive it's been so far. If you are looking for something very different, like a very different type of RPG that is not traditional, that has a different plot and that kind of thing, this probably isn't the game for you. But if you are looking just for a incredibly refined and damn near perfect experience of what a traditional Japanese RPG is, you could do no better than Dragon Quest XI. I'm Novel Mike, and that was my opinion. Thanks, and have a great day.